Guten Abend zusammen. Ich freue mich sehr, dass ihr heute hier erschienen seid. Ich bin Tobias, Mitgründer von awork, und es ist mir heute Abend eine Freude, mit euch eine knappe Stunde wahrscheinlich in diesem Webinar zu verbringen. Für alle, die es noch nicht mitbekommen haben, wir machen das Webinar heute ausnahmsweise mal auf Englisch. Das heißt, wir tauschen gleich die Sprache unterwegs nach ein paar einführenden Worten, weil ich heute einen ganz speziellen Gast dabei habe. Hi, Annalisa. Great to have you. For everybody else, I'm really keen on this webinar because it's always super fun when we get to tell people about how we actually work with awork on the team. And that's what we're going to do today. Annalisa is going to actually walk us through the real life awork that we use, well, to develop awork. So this is a bit of a special case. And all of you interested in working in a team with different processes who really, really knows awork in and out because, well, they're the inventors of the whole thing. That's going to be fun. And also those of you who are interested in Scrum processes, how they can work in awork, will get a lot of things tonight. A couple of admin announcements. Obviously, when you have questions, there will be, as always, time for all the questions in the end of the webinar. You are welcome to ask questions in German if you like. I will then just translate them more or less live. Please put your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar. There's a little button there called Q&A where you can submit the questions, and I'll get a nice list of all the questions, and then we'll go through them in the end or whenever it fits the content that we have. You are also welcome to chat with us, but for questions, please use the Q&A. It's much more comfy for me. Without further ado, Annalisa, do you want to say a couple of words to our guests tonight?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Annalisa. I've been working in HQ Lab for about a year and a half, or a little bit more than that. And I'm a front-end web developer, but also, I like a bit of Scrum and team processes. So that's why I'm going to explain a little bit how we are working in awork. Yep.
Perfect. So let me start with a little bit of an intro here. I'm going to share my screen again because I have a slide here that fits this really well. I hope Zoom lets me. Here we go. So slide number 1. And I think this is a bit of context here that Annalisa is going to have to tell us a little bit about, because we thought it would be prudent to tell everybody how awork is actually developed from a conceptual point of view. We have the same process going on for every awork release. So every couple of weeks, there is a new awork release coming out. I think it's a cycle of usually about 6 to 7, 8 weeks. And then we always release new stuff every 2 months, roughly. We have a new features, updates, fixes that we roll out to all our users, and we always follow a very similar process. Annalisa, do you want to say a couple of words on this little diagram that we brought?
Yes, sure. So let's see. Let's start from sprint 1. So we start a sprint. Our sprint usually, our sprints, the length is 2 weeks. That can be different for everybody who's doing Scrum. We decided 2 weeks was good. After we finish everything, we go to our staging. So staging is a deployment that we made of everything, all of our features into our internal awork. So in awork, we don't use the version that we have in production. We use this version, and we can already test everything that we are having. So we usually have 1 or 2 weeks, depending on which part we are, of testing what is there.
So we are basically our own guinea pigs, right? So whenever we release something new, we use it with the actual awork that our team uses to organize, and we test it as much as we can in an actual team environment, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's very good because we have realistic testing there. And then we have these concept weeks where we focus on planning everything, product and tech side of what is going to come in the next sprint. So also we check any feedback that we are getting from staging. So when we move to starting new features, we already have everything before in a very good state already. So yeah, that's here the week sprint 2, week 1 and 2. Then again we go to staging. Again we have this week of testing and feedback. And after that is where we do this production release, our final release. And yeah.
And is there a reason that the product release cycle is divided into 2 phases? So there's the sprint 1 and then there's the sprint 2 with another concept phase in between. That is a bit unusual, is it not? So yes. Why do we do that?
Yeah, so the sprints are always good to have it short, because then you get feedback already from either from the product owner or in our case, our own team that is using the application. So that's why we don't do it instead of 2 weeks and 2 weeks, we don't do 4 weeks, because then it's harder for us to get all that feedback together. So we do smaller sprints, but then right away it is more agile. We can do feedback right away. And then what we are delivering little by little has already a high quality standard there. So that's why it's broken into these 2 chunks. And what is good is that we also have that time for preparing, doing everything that it is in the technical part as well. We have all of our discussions and all of that. And we have our retrospective. So if you are not familiar with Scrum, after each sprint, we get together as a team and we decide what went good, what went not that good, and we learn. So it's not only that we are getting feedback from the features that we get, but also as a team and how we work, we also gather that feedback during that concept week, as we call it. So right. Yeah, what is nice is then we are completely focused during the sprint in only developing. We don't have any other meetings during those days, and that helps us a lot. Yeah,
makes sense. Perfect. And I think we didn't mention on the awork product development team, there's roughly 8 people at the moment, grouped into front end and back end, plus our product owner who does the product concepts and so on. Just to give everybody a bit of an impression how many people we manage in that process at the moment. How about you take over the screen share and give us an impression of how that actually works in awork?
Sure. Let me go to that right away. Yeah, hopefully you can see. So this is my dashboard. This is what I see every day, every time that I open awork, and this is really useful for me already, just opening this. On the right, I have all of our sprints. So something really cool is that we always have this naming convention for our sprints. So first of all, we use projects to represent a sprint. And then we have this internal thing that we name it with animals. And so, and we just put this awork sprint convention at the beginning. So then I was able to create a filter here in the dashboard that I can then put, okay, give me all of the projects that starts with awork sprint dash. And it's really, really good because sometimes you need to see past tasks and things like that. And I have everything there really nicely done. Yes, so maybe I can start with how a sprint looks like for us. I will start with this Einhorn one.
And by the way, Einhorn is the release that is really upcoming right now. So it's going to be the biggest awork release that we have had since we've launched awork a couple of years ago. So, and this is the actual planning for it. So we are currently in the 2nd sprint, And it's so special that it's going to have 3 sprints, right? Because there's
Yes.
so many new features, so much new design coming into the application that we actually decided to do 1 more sprint. And that's what you're seeing here.
Yes, true. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and that's something very cool that, okay, we have this process, but we are also flexible to our needs. So, yeah. Let's start with how we do the statuses here. So as we showed you before, we have these concept weeks. And then what we do is like we have in this project, we created with all of the tasks that our project manager or owner created for us. And then we use these 3 statuses to while we are in that week and we are doing our concepts. So we have, okay, to do, then this is a concept is in progress, and then it's all ready to implement, which means that we can just grab it already and start developing. Yeah. During the development, so during the sprint, we have the tasks that are ready that we can start developing, then in progress. And then something very important is our code review and QA. So between the developers, what we do is that we create a pull request, which is that we expose the code that we created and we have it so the other developers can see them and can give already feedback and approve or reject depending on what is there. So that's happening in this state. And also what we are doing here is we internally check it. Yeah, each of the development also will test it. So this is what is here. After that, we go to the product QA where our product owner checks it and he decides which ones will be ready or not.
And if they're not ready, they go back to the start and you start working on them again.
Yeah, they go back to in progress, yes. And yeah, so actually I can show you something really cool. I really like about this. So these are the settings of our project. We have a project type, and this project type have all of this that you are seeing here. We have already the statuses, and more importantly, we have these automations. So every time that I create a project for our sprint, we'll have all of this. And these automations are really cool. I will show you 2 that for me are the most important ones. So yeah, as we were saying, how we work with our product QA. We will put a task and put it from our internal QA to product QA. And what will happen here is that we will send one message to the person, to Lucas, the person who is going to actually review it. And we can say, okay, this task is ready for you to start checking. And also, this is the person who is in charge of this. So if he needs to ask anything, he knows exactly who to ask. So it has everything there. It's really nice. And we have the other way around. So if Lucas sees something that was not working or something he decides to go from product QA to in progress, we will get then a message from that. So it will notify the person who was assigned to that task and say, yeah, there was a feedback, and if you need anything, just ask Lucas. Yeah.
And what's cool about this is that in the automation, the one automation, because for us, the product owner is always the same person. So it's actually Lucas there as the one who always gets the message. But the other way around, it's dynamic, right? So whoever from the development team created or worked on that particular feature or ticket will then also get the message simply by the automation.
Yeah, and there are so many ways that you could go around if you will have different persons there. You could maybe just assign that person to the task after you put it in product QA. If you have multiple product QAs, and then the message will go directly to that person. There's a lot of things that you can really do with these automations. Yep.
Great, cool.
Yes. So another thing that I wanted to show you that I really like is how we do our planning using awork. So usually when you're working with Scrum, you assigned story points. And the story points are a little bit special because it's telling you the complexity of a task. It doesn't tell you exactly how many days or something like that. It's just to have an idea of how complex and how big certain tasks are. And what happens usually is that little by little, the team is going to start learning what is their velocity. So they will know how many story points, how many amount of complexity they can do in these 2 weeks. So that's something that usually you work with. And we don't have story points in awork, but we also have things that we can do to work with it. So what we decided is that a day in awork goes as a one story point. So we know that if we say that task is 1 day, doesn't mean that it will take 1 day. It's just that it's one story point. And why do we do this? It's so we can use the budget. So what we do is that we learn our velocity and we know how many points we can do in a sprint with 8 people. So we check first the availability of the users, of our team members. And and with that, we calculate, okay, we can do in these 2 weeks this amount. And here is what we add in the budget. So for example, in here, we decided we can do 40 points in these 2 weeks. And that's the first thing that I will do before starting the planning. So then when this is done, we will have here all of the tasks that will be ready to develop. The concept have been already done. And then all together in Zoom, we start putting points. So we either have cards. There are some people that at home, they have cards. And others like me, I use one app that just gives you the Scrum numbers. We decide how much it has. And then I put it here. And what is really, really nice is it will tell you we still have left some capacity for more points in this sprint.
So in this case, you put in 1 day, which is one story point for this particular feature. And awork automatically tells you of the 40 story points that you had for those 2 weeks, there's still 24 unused. So you can plan 24 more story points until you have reached capacity, correct?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool because we were having a problem before that when we were using like external tools and things like that we needed to be summing at some point during the planning and saying, okay, are we still 40? No, okay, and this is just automatically and helps a lot actually. So yes. Anything Great. Else? I think for the sprint we are very set.
I know that you guys do daily stand-up meetings to just give the team an update, right? So you meet every day. It takes about 15 minutes or so, if I'm correct, depending on how much there is. How do you manage those? How do you handle them? And do you use awork during the meetings?
Yes. So what we do is just start a Zoom meeting and we say what we were doing the day before. And if we are stuck with anything or something that we just felt that was interesting, before we were trying to be very quick because usually they here we are calling dailies, but in some places they are called stand-ups because you should be able to do a standing up and you should not be tired. So it's trying to make it fast. But what we really want to focus is to know what the other is doing and seeing actually if you can learn from what the person did the day before or if you can help that person. So we extend a little bit and explain some interesting stuff that we did. And depending of at which point of the sprint we are, we will open the sprint and we will see, okay, what is left For example, something that happened yesterday was that our team lead, he wanted to focus in some infrastructure things that we wanted to do, some dev task that was not considered in the sprint. So we opened the board and we started seeing if we were able to actually fit that for him. So in these cases, we will open the sprint, but what usually we will open, I will come here and I will see the assign box. And these assign box are coming from a project that is our bug project. And what we want is to know if we have anything that should be tackled today. Because we usually have certain moments during our sprints where we just are full on tackling bugs, but we put certain priority.
Maybe before you dig into the bug fixing process, because that is sort of the second thing that you do, maybe you want to hand over the screen share to me once more, because I prepared a little concept slide for that too. And it might be interesting and helpful for everybody to know how that works. So again, let me share the slide. I'll head over here and just for everybody in the audience, this is how we deal with bugs. I would love to say that awork is completely bug-free, never anything goes wrong ever, but it's a complex piece of software that develops all the time. So of course, mistakes happen and things break. So this is what happens when one of our users actually complains about something. We have a ton of different support channels. So you can call our support team via phone, and people do. We're available from 9 to 6 every day, and people actually do call, ask questions, report bugs. They write us emails to support@awork.io all day long. We have a live chat where people will actually discuss things, show screenshots, do screen shares, and so on. We have a ticketing system. Our sales team is often in calls where things just pop up, and people ask. Our consultants help teams introduce awork into their workflows, and sometimes things happen. So these all get submitted, and there's a wonderful support team who takes care of those and who does some investigation. Because the sheer amount of things that come in are not all bugs. Some are questions, some are just the user mistook something, whatever the case. So our support team goes all Sherlock Holmes mode and does a reproduction. And that is really important for Annalisa then in the end, because she gets the exact technical description of what to do to reach the bug. And also some technical information. We have a support infrastructure in the background where we can actually, when we know a so-called trace ID, so when we know the ID of the call that failed, we can actually go check what happened. So our support team tries to get these IDs, tries to talk to customers and users, what they did, and so on and so on. And then they actually write a new ticket, an internal one, that not only includes what our users said, but it also includes our technical analysis. And then that is handed over to the development team and is what Annalisa just showed us on her desktop on awork. And there's a lot of different software tools involved here, which is really cool because the development team uses a lot of integrations with it. And then once it's fixed, it goes back to the support team, and the support team then lets our users know that we fixed whatever issue they may have had. So this is the process of how we work with bugs. And I'm going to hand right back over to you, Annalisa, so that you can tell us more on how that actually works.
Sure. Yes. So what we are doing then, we have this project here called awork box. In there, we receive everything that was coming from support. But something really interesting that is going on with this project is that support is using a tool called Zendesk. And actually, they don't have to write directly the box in awork. So they have a chat with the user, and from there we have an integration with Zendesk, and we receive everything here in awork. And so we are having this lovely project that comes completely from that automation, and we can integration, and we can have different lists there. And what I check every day is the to list. The incoming box, that is like when your inbox box in your email, something like that. That's how I see it. These are anything that is incoming, and that's the part that we also discuss during our dailies. We check if anything needs to be worked on that day. And we discuss it between each other, and then we assign it. Something also that we have here are automations. And what we have here that is really nice is an automation with Slack. So we have notifications because we have in the integration between awork and Slack that a bug just was created. But we also have something that tells us that there is something that is priority. And it's whenever support decides to put one bug in the watch list. So here, what we do is that when it's in the watch list, then we receive a message in Slack saying that this has moved to the watch list, so we know that right away we need to go and take care of this. And yes, so part of our integration, we have here at the beginning of a lot of tasks, as you can see, a number. And this number is the one thing that links off to Zendesk. So what we do is that if we want to communicate something with support that they can see in Zendesk, we use that number and we put it in a comment in awork, and our integration will do the rest. And what is interesting about that is that that process, because it has to be like perfect, we also automate it because all of that is possible in awork. And we have an automation that sometimes happens that we cannot reproduce it. And we need more information from part of support. And we need to be writing certain things, all of that. And yeah, we don't want to lose time on that. So we created this automation in which when we put one bug to cannot reproduce, then we send a message and having this code that is what we need so our integration can send the message to Zendesk. And then we just ask for the information that we need. And yes, that's it. It's really, really good.
And by the way, for those who are wondering, how does that integration with Zendesk work? There's a bit of custom integration going on there. So we used our API and the webhooks that awork has. So the integration always gets triggered whenever the development team adds any comment to the tasks in this project. And the integration then looks for this specific Zendesk ID of the ticket to sync over the comments and so on. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, and also to have everything more clean. We have things like if we put something to don't, it's moved to a certain list, so it's not in there where we see everything. Yes, and if we have also special messages if it's gone to the inbox trait. So basically, that's
right.
What we do there.
Annalisa, we already have a couple of questions coming in, and a couple of them fit really, really well. So let's see what we have here.
Yeah, sure.
There is one question that Marcus asks. Hi, Marcus. Cool that you're here. Do you use awork to handle your own tickets, and is awork capable to search by ID in awork? And I guess you've given part of the answer already. So yes, we use awork to handle all development tickets. We don't have any other. We used to have Jira. We completely replaced it with awork. Yeah. Currently, there is no task ID in awork, so there is no specific field for that at the moment. We have one, but we just don't show it because historical reasons. But you guys probably search by the Zendesk ID, right? That's how you do it.
Yes, we can search by the Zendesk ID. We can search by name. We just use a search functionality there, and we search for the tickets.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's another question coming up here that fits. How do you actually link pull requests to the tasks and issues that you solve in awork? Is there any connection between the two? How do you handle that?
Yeah, right now we don't, but it's something that we want to do. So we always just put the link in our PRs. But what we want is also to have an integration using pipelines, so we can already know if like change the status of the task or something when we put it there. We can just put it in code review. That's something that we are planning to do, but still have not done.
Under development. Jetty, still a great question. Thanks. Oh yeah, and there's a follow-up question by Jetty as well here. Can you not also, instead of using story points, just use regular time? Why do you do the story point translation?
Yeah, it's a historical thing. We were using days before. There was a whole discussion to see if we will start again with story points, and for us actually works better. Like we have different people with different levels, and they work on a different way, and sometimes something that it can be a day is not a day for another person. So story points actually helps with all of that, and that's why we decided to go back to story points.
Great.
But also, can work putting days.
It could work if you have a very homogeneous team. You could probably also estimate the time it takes. That is, by the way, what most of our creative agencies, for example, do. They don't estimate story points, but they use the budget as an actual time budget and then also book their times against it. I think you guys in the development team, you don't track your times, at least not regularly. But you could now also book the time that you worked on every ticket and have a report in awork on that as well. I have a question here from Kai. Hi, Kai. How do you guys actually handle epics? So an epic for everybody is sort of something that wraps several tickets or issues or stories into one bigger topic. So, and how do you handle user stories? Is there something like that? Is there a separate documentation?
So we don't, we use tasks sometimes for epics. We don't have like epics per se. We just have sometimes just these big tasks. And what we do is that we create concepts, and depending on the size of the concept, and sometimes it's needed two types of concepts, one from front end and one from back end. We will use an external tool like Notion, but usually if it's only one concept, we use the description in the task to put everything there. And then we go and we split the task into a smaller task, and we link it. But that's not something that we work with. Mostly we just either have them one product concept and different tasks. Usually we really like to work with small tasks.
And I can already imagine the question coming up, because you said you break them down into smaller tasks, but you create new tasks for every part, right? You do not put those into subtasks or anything. You really then just create new. It depends. Okay, I didn't know that.
So if it's something that actually will take a lot of time, or something that we want more than one person to do, then we split it in different tasks. But if it's just a small task that help us to know everything that you need to do there, we do it in subtasks. And especially if it's something that can be done with one person, we will use subtasks there.
Great.
Yeah, if not, we break it.
I have a follow-up question by Jetty here. It's a technical one. She, by the way, asks, how do you name your feature branches if you don't have a ticket ID in awork?
Yes.
Very technical. So the question, maybe you need to say a couple of words for those people who are not that used to dealing with code, but good question.
Yes, we have some naming conventions. That goes like we have if it's either a feature or a fix, and then we go with the name of the of the main component or of the main feature. Always have a name, so we use that after either a feature or fix, and then the description. And for the branch name, we use also the feature name.
So every feature really has a unique name that you use for those?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And, cool. And in the commits, mostly the what we put is the main component or feature. Because for us also a feature can be just project types or things like that, just a chunk. Yeah.
Right. Great. So the floor is still open. If you guys have more questions, both to Annalisa or to me, regarding how we handle development projects, but also other projects, obviously, we have also not only our actual real life awork that we obviously can only show so much in, but we do have a demo system here ready for you guys as well. So if there are any questions, we're happy to take them. Maybe while we wait for, oh, there's one. Ruben has a feature request here. Could you implement Dropbox? Well, you're at the source here. Maybe Annalisa will get bored over the weekend and do a bit of a special project. No, but in all seriousness, Dropbox is not on the immediate feature list at the moment. Obviously, our files integrations that we have with the Google Drive and the Microsoft OneDrive are the ones that we focused on because they are the most frequently used in our clients' companies. We might extend that. Maybe there's going to be a Dropbox integration and a box.com integration as well at some point, but it's not on the immediate roadmap because we have other projects going on that are just really fascinating. They're absolutely unique in how awork is going to develop as a team management tool, and we're going to tackle those first before we do any additional files integrations, for example. And maybe while we wait for another couple of questions, we can also give a bit of a, or discuss a bit of a sneak peek here. Oh, but questions keep coming in.
Yeah.
Can you actually export time trackings as Excel, text, CSV? The answer is a definite yes, absolutely. You can. And I can actually, let me switch over here and show you guys. Whoops. Screen share, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. You can all see my test awork now, I hope. Annalisa, is that correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. This one's in German. Let me switch. We're going all English today. Here we go. And what you can do is you can actually export time trackings in very different locations. So one location, and this is probably the one that is used most, is in the time reports. So workspace time reports. That's where you can actually create your own time reports. You just open a blank one. I'll now use one that I've already created. This is one that I called Projekte, so it generates a project-based report for myself. And up here, you actually have the option to print or save this report as a PDF. So if you need to attach it to an invoice, for example, this gives you a nicely layouted PDF. But you also have the option to export this as an Excel file. And if I click here, I even get two different options. There's the option to export the raw data, which will give you all columns and everything that we have. But you can also export the data in a grouped format. So the same grouping that you applied in your report, for my example report, this is by project and by user, for example, will then also be reflected in the Excel file of the times that you exported. Now, this is the most flexible export that you can get, because if you click on the options here, you can actually choose what projects, what users, what the time frame is. You can just, filter exactly the times that you want in your export. But you can also just head over to any project that you want, go into the times section up here, and you can also export just the ones that you see here, and you'll get a raw data export of the times that you have in any project. All right. Great. Thanks for your question, Michael. And
I think there was one in the chat.
Yeah, by Jetty. Yeah. Annalisa, a question is, can you show more than one project in the board at the same time?
Yeah, I think for that I think it depends on exactly what you want to do, but maybe something that you could use is the task views. So you can select specific projects there, and then you can have also the split view there and see.
Absolutely. Let me also show you Jetty pretty quickly. Again, here on the left-hand side on the workspaces, we have this task views menu item. It's going to be renamed into just tasks in a couple of weeks, but for now it's here on the task views. And what you can do here is you can create your own task filters. I have several here, some English, some German. There's a wide mix. For example, I have all the due tasks that have no responsible, because those are, walking problems, and I need to deal with those immediately. And if I want to build one of those filters that also contains several different projects, I just click the plus up here in the task view section. I click create a new task view. I give it a name, my task view, and then I can add different filters. And for your concrete question, you can either select different projects that you want to include here, or you can also select all the projects based on a client or based on a specific tag that you've given. And then this report will include all the tasks that you've had in this project. Now, what is not possible for these is to switch to a board view, because every project can have a different Kanban board, because you can have different statuses in every project. So if you show tasks from a bunch of projects, it's very difficult to show them in a nice Kanban board view, which is why you will be stuck with the list view. But you can group the lists by project, by client, by date, so that you get different list views across all the projects that you want to see in one go. All right, great. Thanks for the question. Let's switch over to the Q&A section again. Is it possible to implement a customer in a review process? That's an excellent question, Ruben. Thanks. We actually have a lot of clients who do that, and they do it in a similar fashion to what Annalisa showed us. So if you imagine that instead of having our product owner Lucas as one of the responsibles in the flow, you could also invite a guest user to your client's project. So you create a user. Again, let me show most of this to not only talk about it, but actually let you see something. So you first go to users and you invite another user, and as a role, you choose the guest role. If you have a German awork, it's going to be called Gast. In the English ones, it's going to be called guest. If you create a user with this role, they only count as 1/3 of a license in terms of pricing. And you can add these users to exactly one project at a time. And if you do, you can give them the role of a client in your project. So let's head over to one of my projects. Let's take the growth experiment projects. Now, if I add somebody here in my project team, I can give them the role of Gast or Kunde, which is customer or client. And by doing this, I can build an automation. Let's go over here into the settings and build an automation. And I could do when a task has changed to the status. What do I have here? I would maybe need a status that is called client review. Then automatically assign the user with the role Kunde, which is client, to this task, and send a message to, again, the user, which is the Kunde, and with the message, hey, this is implemented. It's ready for you to review. And then your client can actually log in. There will be a link to the task. They can edit the task and do whatever. And then in a similar fashion, as Annalisa showed, as we do that with Lucas as our product owner, your client then can also decide what to do with the task, tag someone, assign it to someone, just move it to a different status. And then again, you can let yourself be notified by awork automatically. Great. Thanks for the question, Ruven. All right. Michael, you've got a follow-up question to my time tracking. Can I automate, I guess you mean the export. Can you automate the export so that always on the 1st of every month, you get the report from the month before? Well, parts of it you can automate. And that's really interesting. And that's what most of our clients do who do time tracking. They use the time reports and they create a report with the time frame last month. So whenever you open it on the 1st of your month, you will always get last month's times, for example, for one customer. And then you can do the export on that. If you want to completely automate it, there's always our API. So I guess most of our viewers today have some sort of tech background. You can always use our API. It's open and the documentation is under developers.awork.io. Take a look at it. It's really simple to automate these exports from there. Let's see here. There's one more question by Jetty, I think. When we are working in a sprint, we work on tasks from different projects in that sprint, and those projects change every sprint. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you have different projects within one sprint, then what you would have to do to see those in one shared view would be to actually use a task view. This is from awork's point of view. You mentioned that you use Jira at the moment. In Jira, you can do these things, some better, some less. But from an awork perspective, working in different projects within the same sprint is a bit more cumbersome than really creating single projects for every sprint, because you can do the estimations, you can do the automations, you can have different statuses and so on and so on. So the way to go if you work in awork is to create sprint projects, I guess. Right, Annalisa?
Yeah. And yeah, and also you can do something like what we are doing of having naming conventions for your project. So maybe you just create one filter and in that you will have all of them. And automatically the current projects will then end up in your filter automatically. That's true. So maybe just, I think this was the last question for now. You're still welcome to add any. We have a really big release coming up, and we always name our release with animals. Annalisa showed us, and it was time for the letter E. But it's so special that we this time decided to deviate from our regular English animal names and go for Einhorn, because it's going to be a really beautiful release. We're going to launch the biggest redesign or facelift, if you will, of awork ever. And it's not only going to be within the application, we'll have nice new designs for everything that goes around awork as well. It's going to be cleaner. We'll focus on decluttering the interface, on making it even more intuitive. Also, the main menu will be simpler than it is today. So we're really, really looking forward to that. And I think the first previews were going to be sometime in the beginning of July. And then everybody can look forward to a release sometime in July, which is going to be, as I said, one of the biggest we've had. Rahim, there's a, oh yeah, sorry, Annalisa. There's a question here. Is it possible to keep track of the time a developer has worked on a task? Absolutely, Bahim. It's built into awork. It's one of the core features of awork that you have time tracking integrated in your in the work that you do. So let me switch over to my awork again. So if you have any project that you want, let's take this one, for example, and you head over to the tasks, you can see that every task has this little play icon here. So whenever I hit play on whatever task that I do here, my timer is going to start running. So now I see down here, my global timer is running, and it's going to book my personal times on just this ticket.
And it also syncs with our iOS and Android apps, so you can start and stop the tracker from your mobile devices. And when I stop here and head over to the My Time Tracking section, I can see all the times that I have tracked, both in this nice week view. There's also a day view. And for those of us who not only like to track times with the stopwatch, but sit down in the afternoon and think, what did I do today? You can just drag times in here, select the project that you did, select the task that you worked on, click save. And that's how easy you can actually track a couple of hours and also match that versus the budget that you've put into the projects, which is really handy. And Ruven. Yeah, Ruven, you're absolutely welcome to book a personal call. How about you just reach out to me afterwards? Just send me a line, tobias@awork.io, super easy email address. Everybody's welcome to just reach out. We do free of charge calls, not only me personally, otherwise I wouldn't do anything else. But our team actually does that. So we have a team who really schedules calls, and you're free to bring all your questions, bring your use cases, the things that you want to solve, that you want to see, and we're going to do a personal demo with all of you and walk you through whatever it is that you want to know about awork. So we're absolutely happy to jump on that. You mentioned, Ruben, that you have a lot of customers and projects that you need to handle. And also that is not uncommon. We have clients that handle teams as large as ours with, we have 8 people in the product development, but we're about 30 people, 35 all in all. So we have sort of a medium-sized team that we handle ourselves. And we have clients that have hundreds of users. So our larger clients are in the 500 users area, where we have literally thousands of clients and projects. So the spread of people managing their teams in awork is really, really big. So Ruben, you're welcome to reach out to me and we'll get that set up. Cool. Annalisa, anything you wanna sneak peek on the upcoming Einhorn release?
Yeah,
anything you're really looking forward to?
Oh, a lot of things, but the way, for example, that we are managing our project types, and just let's say that now making a project is going to be really, really even easier. And yeah, there will be quick things of doing a lot of current features. I just don't want to say that much.
Yeah, it's all focusing on working faster and more productively in awork.
Yeah. And also, just reminder, if you already know, but yeah, we name our sprints for like animals, and we are always after when we release a sprint having an Easter egg, and we have so much fun creating those. So yeah, always look for those every time that we have a new release. So in the Einhorn one, yeah, will be good.
Einhorn is going to be in there somewhere, and I don't think we've ever told anybody. So for those of you who have been searching for the Easter eggs that we put into the application from time to time, they're always really pretty pixel art animations. And the fun thing is, our team actually builds them themselves. So it's not our design team who builds these. So our development team has this little hobby of creating these pixel art animations and hiding them in awork for you guys to find. And it's always great fun to build them. And we're always really, really happy when somebody finds them and reaches out to us. Awesome. So I think, Annalisa, great that you were here. Super cool insights into how you guys work with awork. For everybody else, last admin announcement, we're going to send out the recording, of course, of this webinar. It's going to be online tomorrow. Also, when somebody asks what was going on, you'll be able to send a link around tomorrow. And the next webinars that we have scheduled are already on the schedule. So if you head over to awork.io/webinare or /en/webinars, you'll see the webinar scheduled there, and it's already scheduled for the next couple of months. And you can already register. If you do, you will definitely get the recording. Even if then later on you change your mind because you cannot keep the appointment to ask questions, you will definitely get the recording. So make sure that you register for the webinars that you would like to see. There's all sorts there, not all are interview styles. Sometimes we just teach new features and so on. So make sure to take a look over there and reach out to us whenever you have any questions. We're here to help and the team is here to help. We're looking forward to it. All right. So good night, everybody. Bye, Annalisa.
Bye.
See you guys
Thank
around.
you.
Ciao.